Kothi has the potential, Murshidabad has the potential, and as a result, Bari Kothi to possibly become the top 5 regions, experiences, travel destinations in India, if not globally. That's the potential and the vision for Bari Kothi in the next 5 years. This was not a run-of-the-mill restoration project. Earlier I was slightly skeptical to use this word, but now I'm very proud to use this line, that this is possibly one of the most unique projects in the whole of India, not Bengal, in the whole of India, because herein the mandate was not to restore a building. You had to restore all the other intangibles attached. You had to restore the culture of the Sheherwalis. You had to restore the community. You had to restore the pride of the family and hold on to all of these things.
The region is witness to some of the most significant events of Indian history, including the rule of the erstwhile Nawabs of Bengal to witnessing the Battle of Plassey. The wealth, opportunities and significance of the region in the 1700s attracted the wealthiest merchants from across India to migrate to Murshidabad. Murshidabad contributed over 5% of the GDP of the world, but then
Murshidabad didn't exist for all practical purposes. It was only in the last 7-8 years, or maybe 10 years, if I trace from today, which is 2021. So around 2010 onwards, infrastructure started developing, roads started developing. The palaces continued to be shut, and it was still, pretty much all the palaces were in ruins, and all of that story continued. But at least the infrastructure was getting built. What is the state? The state is dilapidated is an understatement, and as I mentioned earlier, bats roaming around in the place, and termites are having a feast every single day and possibly calling all other friends to join and enjoy the feast for the next 100 years. Everything was in ruins. Everything. The Darbar Hall was locked down for close to about maybe 40-50 years. Most parts of the house were essentially destroyed. Every monsoon, around monsoons every year, I remember my father getting a call from Azimgan saying one wall has fallen. So, you'd be in Calcutta and a heavy rainfall, and you would not enjoy that moment, but you would think that, my phone is about to start ringing about hearing this news. So that was the state. We called in a structural engineer, and he said that, well, there's no scope of saving the building, get it on the ground and rebuild it. And that to us was the biggest challenge, because we didn't want to lose anything that could be saved, and I think our architect did that the best, because what we did was we actually raised steel columns from ground up, created a new foundation, got it up, so every wall that was about to fall had these steel columns that had come in. We wrapped them around with chicken mesh nets, and then so these walls were suddenly now wrapped around, and then we blasted it out again. So that now I know will last another 50, 70, 80 years to the least. So we didn't know where to start, and to be honest with you, our aim was not to create what we've been able to create. That was never the intent. It could have never happened. Let me put it that way. And there was no intent. We just humbly wanted to restore one single block, the oldest block, so that our future generations are able to see what our forefathers in the past had done. It was the most humble thought. Canadian architect. What do I say? So this man's a genius in every order, because with projects such as ours, with restoration of a building in Calcutta, the dynamics are wholly different. We are in a village, in a village, in a village. The dynamics are wholly different. Herein, we don't only need someone qualified in technical restoration aspects, but here we need people. The skill set that is required from that person is far more, because here we are not restoring a building, we are restoring a community, we are restoring culture, we are restoring all possible intangible elements that are required to get an ecosystem up and running. So, and why I say genius is because he comes possessed with all these skills. That's where we he ended up being called the magician. And once he walked in project, so the funny thing that again will set the entire momentum of the rest of the discussion on how our palace was restored, is the first few days. Obviously, when he was there, and we said that allow us maybe 5-7 days, and we'll get the carpenters and we'll get the necessary skilled personnel. And I possibly the first 3 days obviously was trying to make a few calls and understand the region and where do we get these skilled personnel. And before I know it, on the third day, he already had made a team of 10 people. And I asked him that where do you get them, or who are they? And he said, oh, they're farmers. And I said, and how will they restore? He said, you watch and see how I'll make them restore. And that to us was the turning point, because he was in charge, and we wanted someone who could come in and take ownership of the space, because without ownership, this was not a typical project where you could plan everything, because the law of thermodynamics was far too prominent in this part of the world, where everything was changing by the day and by the hour, and that became the most important. That was the pulse of the project. We decide to first restore our central courtyard, our Bada Angan. We've got this, it's full of damp. Post 6 p.m. you'll see this place buzzing with 500 bats. And as kids, we would never even dare enter into this particular place. We decide to take this as one block. So Bari Kothi is essentially divided into 5 blocks, and over a period of time, each and every block got developed, and this is the oldest portion of the house, so I understand. And this was the most trickiest portion, because it had teakwood, beams, and steel was not used very extensively in this part of the block. Possibly it was very expensive, not easily available. And this is the block that we wanted to save. This had the Darbar Hall, this had the Gaddighar, this had all the stories, this had the legacy. So first thing he says, hey, break open the first floor of our main block, so that our central courtyard is now open to the sky. What's your first reaction? This guy comes from Canada, comes, and the first thing he says, I want to break open a floor. What if he, midway through while he's breaking, the entire thing falls down? So we are extremely uncomfortable to take that call. And that sort of changed everything, because he pushed us, and he earned that trust, and he said, you stand here and this is how I do, and he made all the plans, he made all the drawings, and that's where we could pierce open the first floor. And these teak woods there for maybe 200 years or whatever, and while it all came out, we realized all of it from the inside was eaten by termites, and it was just literally a decorative piece, and it was about to possibly another 20-30 years and it would all have fallen. So thanks to that aggressive decision making that he did. We went ahead and we actually pierced that open, and because of which now Central Courtyard becomes the most important place because of the light and water that now enters that particular block, and that possibly now is being able to hold on to the weight of the Bar Hall, Gandigarh, and save the building. So that was one of the most important decisions for me in our journey of restoration. Challenges that we were facing, and obviously our architect will tell that better. But in my opinion, the biggest challenge was the team and was the discipline. So herein what we were struggling with, there was no skilled uh, personnel. Everyone skilled in Murshidabad had already gone off to Calcutta or the south or other parts of India, and the Bengal skilled labor force was primarily in demand in that part of India because there was nothing happening here. So that became the biggest problem, and to get these skilled personnel back to Calcutta was impossible. And Calcutta is one thing, but we're talking about a village in Calcutta. That was not happening. So that was the biggest problem. People weren't the environment was not very conducive towards effective work. So that to us was, for me, the biggest challenge, to set that rhythm, to set that discipline, to come in at time. So if work started at 8 o'clock, to make people understand and get them to report at 7:59. So it took us a while to do that, and I think our architect did that the best. And once that discipline started, so a lot of people who now come to Bari Kothi are very impressed with the team that we've created. So we were very clear about one thing, that there was. So our entire restoration exercise was a combination of restoring, preserving, conserving in certain parts, reconstructing what Bari Kothi was, and a large part. One thing we were very clear of, that everything. So every design, say for example, the moldings around the doors. Maybe you had one molding and the others had got destroyed. So we had to recreate all those moldings basis that one molding that we found. If Gandigarh has a particular design and this other wall there was no design, we used that design, we recreated that design into this blank wall. So this is how the uniformity across what you see got created. The style that was used obviously was primarily European, but again, as a community is, we're a combination of Europe, Rajasthan, Bengal, Mughal, and a little bit of British influence. So all of that combined is what, not Bari Kothi, but every nearby stately mansion that you would see, all of them imbibed these architectural styles. So we tried to reincorporate all these things into our project while we're doing it. We've taken a lot of liberty in design sense. We introduced a lot more color. We introduced a little vibe, and as I said, the energy had to be there. So what we wanted to restore was the soul of Bari Kothi. So we went ahead and we wanted to use everything genuine, everything authentic. We've not wasted a single element found in the project. So what I mean by that is, if there were louvers and there were broken slits, the architect went ahead and created a team of carpenters who would then be able to use that as wooden floor. sort of iron that you would find, every teakwood eaten beam that you would find was started getting used as interior elements. So everything got used, and that became the spirit of the project. We didn't want to hire from Calcutta. We didn't want to hire hotel management trained personnel. We wanted the community to become a part of the project, because that's where we realized we were enjoying training people. People were enjoying, they were reciprocating, and it's never a one-way highway. These projects are never a one-way highway. It has to be a two-way highway. And the more we were giving, the more we were getting back. The more we were training, the more we could see. And people are naturally skilled in this part of the world. People are naturally skilled. They just need the right exposure, and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. And it has to be genuine. You cannot, they're very sensitive towards being genuine and being exploitative. So that became our thumb rule. And so far so good. I think we've done a great job in being able to involve everyone and share the joy and share the fun of it. The architect and all of us decide that the roof of Darbar Hall, there was a major leakage, and for every rainfall the Darbar Hall would get flooded, and that was very scary. So what we had to do was we had to literally open the roof to the sky, rebuild everything, introduce steel, and then rebuild a roof on top of it. Now the mandate given was we have to use the same materials. So the same tiles of that period had to be put back into the roof. And then bit by bit, every bit of the ceiling was opened to the sky. Steel beams put in to shift the load off the teakwood onto the load bearing walls. And then the same material was put back. And then we had a layer of new roofing done. And that's how the entire Darbar Hall exercise was done. We took pictures on day one of exactly how the Darbar Hall was, and we took pictures once we were done. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. And that to me was the most exciting part of the restoration of Bari Kothi. And that to me was the key point of how the architect became a magician and what talent he essentially possessed. That was I think the moment for him to show off his skill set. We started enjoying the project. So for us, it became literally, just sitting by a courtyard, having a meal, enjoying the energy of the courtyard, and literally just sitting by at maybe midnight and just feeling the energy of the space. And that's when we realized, hey, you know what? If this space was utilized for this, hey, I would like to do this here. And that was the birth of Kahani Ghar. That was the birth of Soul Room. That was the birth of Zareen Mahal. That was the birth of Naubat Khana. All of these spaces came in because of the energy that the two of us felt. And then our different family members would come in and they had their different perspective of how they felt the energy of that space. And that's how lights came in. We didn't get a designer to design the space in terms of what lights to be put or what wall color. We just sat there and we realized, hey, if there was a light over here, it would look so nice. And that's how every space got created in Bari Kothi. And that's become a part of our guest experiences. We started going out to the world, we started going to different parts in Europe, and we started talking about Murshidabad, started talking about Bari Kothi. And then we realized that people loved what they saw. People were very excited to come. But then the practicality came in. Would I come from Paris for 3 nights to Murshidabad? No matter how much I like Bari Kothi. No, you wouldn't. You would come to India for 9 nights, 11 nights. So suddenly we realized that, oh, so now we have to enter into being travel agents. No one had that intel that we did of the region. So we actually had to start restoring the travel circuits. We had to start creating multiple travel circuits, such as the spiritual tour of the East. We created something called the rural tour of the East. We created the colonial tour. So all of that now involved Shantiniketan, Shirampur, Chandanagar, Mayapur, Tarapet, Calcutta. All of that now became travel circuits, and Murshidabad was 3 nights. So for making Bari Kothi live, it was important that Bengal thrives, and that for us was the true meaning of restoration, and that became our 1 point agenda. Of course, it's a lot more hard work. It requires a much broader spectrum of thought process. But had that not happened, it would be Bari Kothi would just be a dream. It would be a dream waiting to implode. Thankfully, we've been able to get that going. We've been able to attract a lot of eyeballs from across the world. People now know Murshidabad. This now is interesting thought to share. What's the vision forward for Bari Kothi? To be very honest, I am not very. I like not to be bold in my words in terms of the future. And I'm very shy when it comes to what we are doing, because I'm never sure as to if we've reached where we needed to reach and when it's a good time to showcase what we've done. It's only in 2021 that sitting today, I realize that the pandemic has taught us a lot. The pandemic taught us to pivot from international tourists to domestic tourists. Our horizon broadened. People started appreciating what we are doing. Our genuineness, and as I mentioned earlier, we were very clear we have to be genuine and we have to be authentic. People can judge. So people now have judged. And what we are doing is something that people are liking. And that makes me feel that we now have the ability to take few more palaces of the region, make them into the same model as Bari Kothi, have at least 150, 200 rooms in the destination of Azimganj and Jiaganj combined, or Murshidabad, so to say, combined. At the moment you have 200, 250 odd rooms in the region, you become a destination for any wedding, for any corporate event, for anything. Because the peak seasons of travel require that inventory for it to become a destination. So that's the vision for Bari Kothi, that's the vision for Murshidabad.